Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups are already entering Pokrovsk. Ukrainian drones have completely burned down a Russian aviation base in the Rostov region. The Ukrainian OnlyFans model who was brutally beaten in Dubai has revealed who did it. Russian airports have been in chaos for the third day due to Ukrainian drone attacks. Russian negotiator Medinsky owes his career to Putin's daughter because he has a relationship with her. Hello, my name is Katarina Kovalchuk, and right now, here are the main stories. But first, like this video if you support Ukraine and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose touch with you on YouTube. Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups are entering Pokrovsk. In particular, yesterday, Defense Forces soldiers fell into a Russian ambush.
Here, damn it, those bastards are already here! To the left!
Our defenders have been reporting the increased activity of Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups for several days now. In particular, yesterday we talked about how the Bakhmut military demon also mentioned this very active work of Russian sabotage groups. Meanwhile, military analyst Vasil Pakno says that the situation in Pokrovsk will not be changed by Russian sabotage groups.
In my opinion, in reality, nothing significant will really change with the entry of sabotage groups into Pokrovsk. After all, it's unlikely that the Russians will engage in combat within the city limits. Their priority is the flanks and logistics. Urban combat is a legacy of Bakhmut, and the Russians have already moved away from such scenarios. They are too costly. It's easier to cut off the flanks, as was done in Avdiivka.
Meanwhile, in the Kharkiv region, the Russians have launched an offensive in a new direction and are trying to draw Ukrainian reserves away from the Kupiansk area.
Overall, the situation is not very favorable for us. The long stretch of the border allows the enemy to carry out such actions almost along the entire line. Such fires, due to a lack of reserves, have to be extinguished in a targeted manner, depending on the strength of the brigades already carrying out combat missions. Directly on the front line?
Deep state analysts report that the Russians have occupied Khushivske in the Donetsk region. The enemy has also advanced near Voskresenka, Orikov, Mayak and Zatishok. However, despite the offensive that the Russians have launched in several directions at once, they are failing to achieve any success. Our defenders, despite the enemy's pressure, are holding the line. So, on this occasion, I want to thank our guys and girls for their work. A deep bow to you and thank you for your protection. Write a few kind words to Ukrainian defenders in the comments. I know for sure they are watching us. The Russians continue to terrorize the civilian population of Ukraine. Last night, Odessa and Sumy came under attack. The enemy attacked Odessa with drones.
As a result of the strike, a fire broke out. Cars were burning in the parking lot, windows were shattered in an apartment building, and a store was damaged.
Preliminary reports indicate that one person was killed. Meanwhile, in Sumy, the Russians struck a residential area with guided aerial bombs. Later, the Sumy Regional Military Administration reported that as a result of the Russian strike, 5 apartment buildings, a shopping center, and 18 cars were damaged.
2 people were hospitalized. A 60-year-old woman and a 38-year-old man are receiving medical assistance. According to preliminary data, 12 people sought medical help.
In addition, the Russians struck a residential building in Kramatorsk with a guided aerial bomb. A 10-year-old boy was killed there. Our sincere condolences to the family. Russia is a terrorist state. There were also blasts and explosions last night in Russia, particularly in the Rostov region. About a dozen explosions were heard, after which a fire broke out in the area of the Milerovo military airfield. This morning, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that a total of 25 drones were shot down over Russian territory, 12 of which were unmanned aerial vehicles. In the Rostov region, interestingly, drones were launched over Ukraine from the airbase, Milerovo. Drones also attacked the new Kuibyshev petrochemical company, which is one of the largest producers in the field of gas processing, petrochemicals, and organic synthesis in Eastern Europe. By the way, I want to thank our air defenders who repel the Russians every night. And thanks to the guys and girls who strike Russia without a single plane. Second day, Russian airports are in chaos due to the drone threat. At Moscow airports, planes are neither landing nor taking off. But the Russians aren't losing hope and keep on waiting. And to make the wait more comfortable, they've even brought inflatable mattresses to Sheremetyevo. And among these passengers, there are those who genuinely don't understand why the planes aren't flying.
No information at all. We can't exchange our tickets. I've lost my tickets. Istanbul, Venice, 3 tickets. Now, for each ticket, they're asking me to pay an extra $980. It's the same thing. This is what's happening. There should at least be some information. I haven't seen it since 11:30 p.m. Everyone has tickets. Now everyone is coming back. But in the end, there should be some respect. I have a gold Airfield card. 23 years. I've been using your company. What is this anyway? This is the first time I've encountered something like this.
I don't want to comment on the intellectual abilities and understanding of cause and effect relationships by Russians, but I would be happy to read your thoughts on this in the comments. On the night of the 21st of July in Moscow, the car of the director of a factory producing drones for the Russian army was set on fire. This concerns Volodymyr Petrov, who heads the company Petrov Engineering.
It is noted that this firm is engaged in the production of drones, electric motors, electric generators, and transformers to meet the needs of the Russian army.
For the full picture, something is missing. A fire at the factory itself. Ukrainian OnlyFans model Maria Kovalchuk, who was brutally beaten in Dubai a few months ago, gave an interview to Russian journalist Ksenia Sobchak. The girl said that she was nearly killed, Russian rich kids, and the son of a Donetsk businessman.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Do you understand what kind of people they are? You, Artem, and Alexander. Can you tell us anything about them from what they told you themselves, or maybe you tried to find out more later?
I know that they live here, or rather in Dubai, locally, because they live with their parents. They don't work, they don't study, they just live.
In Dubai, Maria says, she met a guy named Artem who suggested taking his father's business jet and flying with a group to Thailand.
I know that Artem's father is influential because Artem promised to arrange a business jet for us through his father, which we were supposed to take to Thailand.
Do they often throw these kinds of parties? Has anything like this happened before?
Well, they're always throwing parties like that. I mean, for them, it's a regular thing every day, some kind of wild get-together.
But once we were at the hotel, some unhealthy things started happening. In particular, the guy started telling the girl that she belonged to them. They also took away her personal belongings and wouldn't let her leave the hotel.
So you, Milena Dolganova, Artem, and who else?
And Alexander?
So there were only 4 of you remaining at that point?
Yeah, that's right. They started to seriously scare me. I mean, I realized that something abnormal was happening. I tried to get out onto the neighbor's balcony to ask for help, to somehow get away from these guys. Artem and Alexander dragged me back. While they were on the balcony, I ran out of the hotel, ran out of the room, and they ran after me.
It is also known that one of the guys was detained by the police, but he was later released.
According to Maria Kovalchuk, in the hotel room with her was Artem Papazov, the 19-year-old son of Ole Papazov, a businessman from Donetsk who now owns the Cinnabon and Pabst Burger franchises. His oldest son is also Ole Papazov, a well-known Russian entrepreneur. He heads the Mega Group of companies. The family spends most of their time in Dubai, living by all the rules of the local wealthy lifestyle. Yachts, hotels, parties, and unlimited luxury. Alexandra Mertsalova, a 19-year-old blogger and entrepreneur. Her father, Antony, owns a medical center in Moscow. And she's in Dubai, supposedly involved in the cryptocurrency business and fashion design. Milena Dolganova is a 16-year-old native of Ukraine. Her father, David Dolganov, is an entrepreneur. He started in the alcohol business in Kyiv and now manages companies in Uzbekistan. He is also a CrossFit coach, philanthropist, psychoanalyst, and business consultant. Also, according to Kovalchuk herself, 2 more people took part in the party. 20-year-old Russian Maxim Krasheninnikov and 29-year-old Belarusian Alexander Laptinsky. Krasheninnikov quickly left the party and did not take part in the incident.
Currently, Maria is undergoing rehabilitation in Norway. She decided to give the interview specifically to a Russian journalist because it was Russians who abused her. We want to wish Maria a speedy recovery. As for those degenerates, I'll be honest, I'm not sure they'll be punished, because there's already a trend emerging that suggests they'll be let off the hook. Let me remind you, Maria was found brutally beaten with broken limbs, a fractured spine, and her teeth knocked out. What do you think about this whole story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Trump's rhetoric regarding Russia may have changed under the influence of US First Lady Melania Trump. Republican and member of the House of Representatives Don Bacon shared this in a conversation with journalists from The Hill.
We should thank Melania. Even the president said that his wife reminds him every day that Russia is bombing Ukrainian cities every night.
And yes, Trump really did say that Melania regularly reminds him that in the morning, Putin says he wants peace, but in the evening he bombs Ukrainian cities. How exactly did you manage to deliver this rather sensitive and significant news to President Putin, especially considering the recent public discourse? It's quite a contrast to a very recent instance when former President Donald Trump was directly approached and questioned by a group of persistent journalists. They specifically inquired whether his wife Melania Trump exerted any form of influence or had any input on his critical decisions concerning the ongoing conflict and the complex situation in Ukraine. In response to these probing questions, he unequivocally stated that his esteemed wife Melania, much like himself, maintained a position of complete neutrality and impartiality on this highly contentious and globally significant issue. So, to reiterate, just a short while ago, when Donald Trump was actively engaging with and responding to the inquiries posed by various journalists who were keen to ascertain if Melania had any sway over his strategic choices regarding the protracted and devastating war in Ukraine, he clearly articulated that his wife, mirroring his own stance, remained entirely neutral and unbiased on this profoundly important and sensitive matter, which continues to have far-reaching international implications.
Mr. President, yesterday you mentioned twice your conversations with the First Lady after your meeting. In your opinion, did she influence you regarding this? She is very smart. In this sense, she's very neutral. She, like me, wants people not to die. You know, I am for people not dying.
Well, I don't know. And what do you think, did Trump start supporting Ukraine thanks to the First Lady's influence? I can't even count how many times China has stated its neutral position on the war in Ukraine. But every time, Putin's position is shattered by very simple evidence. Evidence of what Russian drones are made of. The main intelligence directorate showed a new Russian reconnaissance drone designed to detect Ukrainian air defense systems. And guess what? Almost all the components in the UAV are from China.
The device has a delta wing type fuselage, similar to the Shahed 136. Geran 2, but much smaller. All the parts and modules are of Chinese origin. Almost half of them are the flight controller with autopilot, navigation modules and antennas, airspeed sensor, and pitot tube. The pitot tube is from a Chinese company called QAV Technology, which specializes in research, development, and production of system modules and applications for UAVs.
The main part consists of electronics from the Chinese company QAV Technology, which officially ceased cooperation with Russia in 2022, but apparently not completely yet. The chief Russian negotiator, Vladimir Medinsky, is known worldwide as a deranged pseudo-historian. But jokes aside, he is not only the main figure in Russia's negotiating team, but also in the field of, as one might say, history, which the Kremlin always interprets in its own way. Medinsky oversees an entire department.
It's common to make fun of Medinsky, both in Russia and in the West. Even in the Kremlin, he was called a clown. That's how he was described by sources for important stories before 2022. And the media constantly bring up his scandalous dissertation, which experts have deemed unscientific. However, Medinsky's position in the Kremlin has significantly strengthened, especially after the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine in March 2022. This is according to a European intelligence officer interviewed by the authors of this investigation. According to him, since the summer of 2024, Medinsky was given control over an entire division of the presidential administration, which oversees issues of cultural and historical educational policy, a department for creating ideology, as his interlocutor described it.
just an ordinary functionary before. He's risen to this level because of his connections with Putin's daughter, Katerina Tikhonova. Should I specify exactly what kind of connections? I don't even want to. But, as journalists uncovered in their investigation, Katerina Vladimirovna did have a hand in advancing Medinsky's career.
In addition to heading the ideology division in the presidential administration, he also participates in closed seminars. A man who previously worked for the Kremlin says that he discusses the same topic with Katerina Tikhonova, Putin's daughter. He calls Medinsky a Tikhonovite. According to him, Medinsky is part of the president's daughter's inner circle. For some reason, Medinsky appealed to Katerina, and as a result, he is now under her watchful eye, and her father's. And such an important project as the negotiations is entrusted specifically to him. In other words, he is considered sufficiently competent. Much more competent than Petrov. It comes to mind, says an interlocutor who knows Medinsky. In the last 2 or 3 years, he has increasingly tended to refer to his family as an explanation for certain career moves, adds a second interlocutor close to the presidential administration.
Now Medinsky is not just a chief ideologist and negotiator, but also one of the few who can arrange meetings with Putin. And one more small but very important detail. He is not just interested in history. According to journalist sources, Medinsky is obsessed with Russian history. Well, that explains a lot.
Ukraine had a serious delegation. The Russians sent some historian who talked about the history of Russia from the year 1250.
Here's another pattern I've noticed. At least the third Kremlin negotiator is originally from Ukraine. Dmitry Kozak is from the Kirovorad region, Kirill Dmitriev was born in Kiev, and Medinsky is from Smila in the Cherkasy region. Does Putin have some kind of fetish? What do you think? And do you believe that Bankerman's daughter had a hand in Medinsky's promotion? We have never stopped talking about how extensive Russia's agent network is. Kremlin agents are present in the governments of almost every country in all international organizations. Russian spies are everywhere, and this is not paranoia. Even in Germany, they have admitted that Russia has significantly increased its level of espionage. And it's not just anyone saying this, but Germany's military counterintelligence service.
The number of suspicious cases has doubled over the past 12 months. Military counterintelligence notes that Russian agents are infiltrating Germany through third countries. They try to establish contact with people of Russian descent, immigrants, and individuals who have personal or business ties to Russia. Russian intelligence services pay special attention to German military personnel and individuals with dual citizenship who visit Russia or countries allied with the Russian Federation. In such cases, there is a risk of pressure and recruitment.
German counterintelligence also knows that Russian intelligence services are using Cold War-era tactics and acting more aggressively. They are organizing more acts of sabotage.
The agency also knows that German Navy ships are increasingly becoming targets of sabotage. In recent months, there have been several recorded cases of deliberate damage to military vessels. Cut cables, foreign objects in engines, and toxic substances in water systems.
Of course, there are also information attacks and the spread of disinformation. Sanctions, of course, are painful, but the Kremlin still has money. And not just to continue the war, but also for rearmament. The largest rearmament since the Soviet Union. The head of Ukrainian intelligence, Kirill Budanov, stated that Russia is preparing to change its military by 2036.
There is a total mobilization of Russia's politics, economy, and society to prepare for a future large-scale war, said Kirill Budanov. As part of the military reform in Russia, 2 new military districts have already been created, the Moscow and Leningrad districts. There are also plans to form new divisions, units, and military formations. Russia seeks to destroy the current security and economic order. To this end, Moscow is increasing its presence in Africa, primarily by using its proxy forces, the Wagner PMC and the African Corsairs, well as supporting authoritarian regimes and terrorist organizations around the world, said Kirill Budanov.
According to preliminary estimates, this will cost the Kremlin about $1.1 trillion. And while the Kremlin's war machine is on the move and planning new waves of aggression, some are still opposed to strikes on Russia because of threats of nuclear war. But that's not what we should be afraid of at all. Not so long ago, we were glad that the new Pope, unlike his predecessor, speaks not only about the war in Ukraine, but also about how our country and people are suffering from Russian shelling. That's good. But there is also bad news, because the Pontiff's attention did not last long. The Vatican is preparing to restore relations with the Russian Orthodox Church. This was reported by the news outlet ANSA.
Sources have said that the Pope intends to resume dialogue with the Moscow Patriarchate after the tensions caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
And these are not just words, because already on the 26th of July, Pope Leo XIV will receive Metropolitan Anthony, the head of the Department for External Church Relations of the Moscow Patriarchate. Interesting, what comes next? A meeting with Patriarch Kirill, who blessed the Russians to kill Ukrainians. They threatened to leave NATO, but instead they're leaving UNESCO. The United States of America has decided to withdraw from the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. According to the White House press secretary, President Trump made this decision, in particular because of the organization's pro-Palestinian and pro-Chinese bias. To put it simply, the US is accusing UNESCO of anti-American and anti-Israeli policies.
President Trump decided to withdraw the United States from UNESCO, which supports woke, divisive, cultural, and social causes. This is completely contrary to the common-sense policies that Americans voted for in November, stated White House spokesperson Ansa Kelly.
The idea of withdrawing did not arise suddenly. Back in February, Trump ordered a 90-day audit of US participation in UNESCO to identify instances of anti-Semitism. As you might have guessed, the cases disappeared as a reason for withdrawal. Like this video to support what we do. And be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukrainian Today so you don't miss the next episodes. See you!